towards the future. Welcome to Valletta Tech Summit.
A very good morning to everyone. I'm Keith Demicoli, and I'm really excited and honored and privileged somehow to welcome you to the second day of the Valletta Tech Summit, discussing everything related to the Internet of Things. So all IoT enthusiasts, we do welcome you for the second day, and we're going to discuss both the developments, trends, and everything related to IoT. We will be discussing and trying to analyze further all the developments related to the new emerging technologies, and discussing and testing out new products, what's happening in the IoT industry. And of course, in the tech world, we are all so excited at the moment with DLG, Distributed Ledger Technologies, DLTs, blockchain, artificial intelligence, data analytics, cloud computing, and of course, Internet of Things. During the next 4 or 5 hours, we'll try to discuss in detail more about all these developments in the tech world. More precisely as well, we're trying to focus on data analytics, the legal aspect of IoT, and also how IoT is propelling sustainability around us. So I do invite you all to get involved in the upcoming discussions and also networking opportunities as we focus on issues around digital disruption, innovation, and emerging technologies. All this while Malta, thanks to Tech.mt, it's trying to propel itself in being a tech hub, not only in the Mediterranean, but also in Europe and internationally. So without further ado, I'd like to invite our very first speaker, the chairperson of Tech.mt. So Mr. Bugeja is the chairperson of Tech.mt, the organizing body of this event, Valletta Tech Summit, a very seasoned entrepreneur. He worked in different sectors in the Maltese economy, from travel, marketing, IT, human resources, catering, and of course, IT. One of the first Maltese to have programmed the very first website back in 1996. After developing a keen interest in the new internet industry. Mark has also 20 years experience in human resources, where he was employed by a large foreign manufacturing company. And in parallel to this experience, he has also vast foreign marketing experience in the Middle East and also Asia. Today, he has developed a good understanding and knowledge of the new wave of fintech industry, financial technology, and promotes it through personal, informative talks. We're really delighted to have him with us this morning and deliver introductory remarks for the second day of the Valletta Tech Summit. Please join me in welcoming the chairperson of Tech.mt, Mr. Mark Bugeja.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us, and welcome to the second day of the Valletta Tech Summit, IoT and Beyond, organized by Tech.mt. Last year, Tech.mt published a report encompassing the state of play of the IoT sector here in Malta, which gathered a lot of momentum and interest from the local tech community. Therefore, when planning the first edition of the Valletta Tech Summit, Tech.mt decided to continue building on the build-up generated by the report and focus on this very prominent vertical of the tech sector, Internet of Things. The first edition of the event has attracted the interest of many important stakeholders in the industry that are carrying out groundbreaking work in the realm of IoT, as showcased during yesterday's event, which saw a plethora of renowned local and international speakers, panelists, and entities discussing various topics involved around the world of IoT. For today, the team at Tech.mt planned another full day of interesting panels, keynotes, case studies, and discussions, which will revolve around important topics such as how IoT can be used in data analytics, how it can help drive sustainability, align business operations, as well as the legal and ethical implications of the technology and various other subjects that are going to provoke the interest of everyone in the audience. Whether you are a business looking to invest in IoT, an academic, researcher or student looking to enhance your knowledge on the technology, or simply want to learn about the benefits that IoT can bring in today's world, we are sure that you will find the Valletta Tech Summit IoT and Beyond conference interesting and insightful. Finally, we urge you to make the most of the event, not only by listening, but by actively participating and asking questions using the available chat function, visiting our partner booths, and interacting with one another and exploring business opportunities via the networking function of the platform. On behalf of the Board of Directors and everyone at Tech.mt, I would like to thank you once again for joining us and hope you enjoy today's program and the final day of the first edition of Valletta Tech Summit. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Bag Bujeya, chairperson of Tech.mt. I do urge you and extend his welcome as well during the second day of the Valletta Tech Summit to be part, notwithstanding having a virtual tech summit, but also to be part and try to absorb all the information and be actively participant in all the discussions that we're having lined up in the next few hours. So our very first keynote speaker, he's a renowned international speaker. With over 25 years of experience as executive independent advisor and renowned global speaker, he gained and shared his expertise in various industries. He's the founder of the Future of Trust and part of the senior management of the so-called Quantum Age Corporation. Additionally, industry successes include founding a Digital Transformation Academy and serving a Digital Transformation Academy and serving as a strategy advisor for Genetica and other AI, artificial intelligence, blockchain, and IoT startups. So please join me in welcoming, during the second day of the Valletta Tech Summit, internationally renowned speaker, Pascal Van Kniff. So Pascal, a very good morning to you and thank you so much for being part of the Valletta Tech Summit. We're excited to hear your thoughts, insight and trends about everything related to IoT. So the virtual floor is yours now.
Everybody, and hello here from the Netherlands. I hope everybody is doing well. I'm very delighted and honored to be here with you today. It's on the agenda. What I will be sharing today is basically leveraging IoT technologies to reach your ESG goals. And I trust that everybody can see my screen, so I will be going and having some interesting information here. So IoT, why am I so interested in IoT? Because I believe if we look around it, that technology is really disrupting our day-to-day lives. Right, we're seeing interesting things like Amazon coming out with new drones to deliver your goods, right? And we also see what I find very interesting, a new way of how information is being dispersed. Whereas also information now attests to a certain types of value, and also the value creation and value dispersion is changing in today's world. You know, powered by AI and by blockchain and IoT. As a matter of fact, I believe that IoT has the opportunity, not only the opportunity, but it's changing the way how we live. It's changing how we're going to build. It is also going to change how we're buying things. It's also changing how we trace food, for example, or how we transact and how we add value, how we consume and how we protect, how we pay and how we collaborate, how we audit supply chains and how we produce, how we manage real estate and how we consume energy, how we identify ourselves and how we measure output, even more how we define success And the most important thing, I believe, that IoT will help us to make a difference. Right? So first and foremost, let's discuss a little more about IoT. What is IoT? I think most of us know it, but when I look at it, it's basically a global network of physical assets, things like sensors and devices that are connected by the internet, right? That we can monitor the world around us and collect and exchange all the resulting data. Some things collect and send information, some receive information and act upon it, and some can do both. But what makes them different is that they're smart, right? And when we go about ESG, one of the favorite topics, obviously, I love to talk about, there's a couple of things, right? You know, overall, I'd say that IoT is a very simple definition, right? It's basically how do we have impact on the planet and on the business performance, right? Some people talk about corporate responsibility or sustainability, but really it's all about integrating social and ecological concerns. The environmental factors, right, is basically how does a company have impact on the environment based on the premise that business activities have the potential to create environmental positive or negative outcomes, right? Like how do we use energy efficiently? How can we use renewable energy, right? How do you have responsible factors, right? And how do you also disclose this information? Another thing, of course, is socially, right? So the social factors is, do we have diversity? Do we have a safe and healthy work environment? Do we have labor standards across everything that we're doing? And then lastly, the G for in ESG, the governance factors, right, is basically what I think is, do we apply risk management, executive compensation, donations, political lobbying, etc., and is there no corruptions and bribery? So why in the world would we want to use IoT to leverage or leverage IoT to reach our ESG goals? Well, there's an interesting, research that's been done by the Enterprise Strategy Group, right? That basically have said, okay, organizations that are adopting emerging technologies have seen 80% faster growth. And this research was conducted over 700 companies out of 13 companies. So you might say that this is a little bit of a stakeholding research, right? And what were the key findings within this research? That there is, by using IoT, 37% of the errors were reduced, right? Also, it took only 6.7 days to get to order fulfillment instead of 10 days. There was a better understanding of everything that was going on in their company. 72% of the respondents told that. And then there's 26% reduce of errors when people used IoT. And then, of course, when you talk about productivity, 36% increase, and 87% have said that they achieved or exceeded their ROI. So why, what gives me what I would say a little bit of the right to talk about this subject? Well, personally, I've been involved in a digital frontline since 1997. We brought the iMac to market here in the Netherlands. And then we created the first data center here for healthcare. At that time, it was really called terminal-based computing. So we brought that back. Nowadays, it's called cloud computing. Also looking at some of the things, the social aspect, I've been a pioneer in that space. And more or less, the SmartWorks Ristros is something that we brought to the market. And some of my other interesting accolades, add up to working with EDM, iRazor, Alliance Pay. And recently, like the people shared, I've founded the Cuttingwood Academy, where we basically help people to understand and make sense of things by using Alexander Osterwalder's canvas-based thinking. The most important thing, I believe, and what we're doing as a company, but also personally, is what we call proposition building, proposition creation. Because there's a lot of people that want to use IoT, and they have an idea, but when it comes to articulating why they want to use IoT, I've seen many times that people could not really articulate some of the problems that they were solving, right? The pains, as we call it, but also had issues when it comes to, okay, how do we describe the jobs that can be done, and the additional benefits in terms of the gains. So jobs, pains, and gains, three very important elements when you want to use IoT. Another thing, like I said, I've been involved as a strategy officer within the AI space, where we use an interesting product called Flora. And like it's been shared, Quantum-Mates Corporation and the senior management. Why is that so important? And why is that really applicable to what's happening and what we're talking about today? Quantum Fleet Technology, one of the subsidiaries within Quantum-Mates, has developed a micromass spectrometer. Talk about IoT. This is, it used to be a micromass spectrometer, for those who know it or don't, used to be the size of a huge fridge, right? And it would do the particles per billion. So it would measure all the air that's coming through. The micromass spectrometer, a novel IoT device where we have built the proposition along, is a spectrometer that has been reduced to almost the size of your hand, as you can see. And as such can be placed on diesel trucks and diesel engines in order to measure the real emissions, not the perceived emissions that are coming forth, but the real emissions, right, that are coming through. That micromass spectrometer gives you a whole lot of information and tells us and helps us where IoT can really make that difference. Another thing, what we've been doing in this space is we work with Smart Compass, right? And that is a smart sensor platform. What we see here is how the real data from the Rosecroft estate in San Diego during a world conference in Spain showed live information from what was going on the estate. So basically, it was not only showing on computer screens, as we can see here, right? It's showing live data like wind speed, wind direction, etc., but also the rainfall stats and the soil moisture stats, right? It showed that not only on a computer, but also on their watches in real time. Now, what does it mean? It means that basically all these sensors that were out there, and this was the rainfall sensor, was being shown in real time on the watch. Also similarly for the wind. So now what I want to talk about and where I want to delve into, and maybe my the organization can also share this link. We have developed also a checklist in order to do similarly what Quantum Fleet has been doing, but also what Smart Compass has been doing in order for you to make that difference, because that is what this whole keynote is all about, right? How can we use IoT technology in order to make a difference and reach your ESG goals? So like I shared, we've developed a checklist, and I wanted to figure out if that can be shared, right? And within that checklist, there's a very simple concept. We want to determine together with you, if you fill in this checklist, to amplify what you should be focused on. What does that mean? Amplify as in there's a number of questions that will basically touch the elements of the environmental, the social, and governance, where you have to ask yourself, does this apply to me, right? Then that's the A. And then the M, can I measure it by using the devices, right? And P, is it a priority? And that whole concept of what I just shared is, in my opinion, something that will help you in accelerating your sustainability and also accelerating you reaching your ESG goals. And with that, really help with a concept of prioritizing what it is that you're doing. One of the things, when we look at this, this whole concept of prioritizing sustainability and using IoT and also to reach our ESG goals, you can ask yourself, so why would we want to do this? Why is this a match? And even I would say it's even a match made in heaven, right? IoT and reaching your ESG goals, right? Why do I believe that? I think that collection of data, right, and reporting of that data will, by using IoT, will make things more accurate and more streamlined. If you look at that, for example, right, we discussed that earlier. We can measure our carbon footprint. We can measure energy efficiency, water and quality usage, waste management, but also things like indoor air quality. Like I shared Spark Compress, what we've done there and how we've created that proposition there is really helped during one of the conferences to even look at things like waste management. Are my waste bins, are they full or not, right? How is the air quality, right? And how is that being brought into a single platform so the ESG manager could monitor all these things? So I've mentioned it already, right? It does not only allow ESG metrics to be tracked, but also consequently can help in your performance across these key assets. So, and outside of that, sorry, my mouth was dry. Outside of that IoT use case that we shared, I think look at things like managing traffic lights, right? Managing crops, looking at large forest areas, monitoring the air pollution, monitoring cameras, etc. And I think, and what we've seen is that a lot of people are highlighting now how to capitalize on that, right? Where you basically say, well, how can we do more with IoT? And amplify, like I said, what we're doing. So my motto is always to lead by example. So what I mean with leading by example, it means that you look at your organization and that we look at our organization and not only look at all the outside things that are coming from the outside in, but also things that are coming from the inside out, and making a stance when it comes to ESG goals and really communicating this as well. And as such, make a huge difference in this space. So I don't know if there are any or more questions, or we need to go into that, because I want to have a quick 5-minute break for you guys to maybe ask some questions. And otherwise, I'd love to go more deeper into the ESG checklist, because again, I think that is a real tool to help reach your goals. So I don't know if there are any questions.
No, I don't believe so, Pascal.
That's great.
I believe you can proceed with the last 5 minutes.
That is awesome. I'm glad that I'm a little bit, of course, I'd love to answer any questions, but I want to go now into a deep dive within the checklist. So I will stop this share and go into the checklist that we've created specifically also for everybody here. So let me start sharing the screen again. I believe that everybody can see this screen. Is that correct? Yes, there we go. So the checklist of using IoT to reach your ESG goals, again, a very practical checklist here. is how can we use that? Basically, what we've done, we've created 3 columns in the checklist. The first column is the A column. Does this apply to your company? The second, like I said, is the M column. Can it be measured or monitored using devices? And thirdly, there's the P column, right? Is this a priority or not? And the idea is basically checking the box. Does it apply? Can it be measured? And is it a priority? So again, on the environmental part of it, we're looking at a couple of interesting things like natural hazards. Is your company subject to it? Does it apply to you? Can it be measured? And is it a priority? Right? So then we go into carbon emissions and then climate change. Again, we can think of, do you operate in a energy intensive sector, right? Do you have plans or actions to control and or reduce emissions? I've shared the quantum fleet technology. One of that ESG goals obviously is to really monitor what comes out of a diesel engine. It's not something like, okay, let's figure this out. And yes, I do have a diesel engine. And yes, there is emissions, but it's very important to be very specific. And hence, it can be applicable and it can be measured. And of course, it is a priority. And then another thing like air emissions, energy and water management, these things, like we said earlier, through the Spark Compass, can also be measured. And do you have plans in these areas? Do your products, we can look at simple things like does your company offer those products? Similarly for the supply chain, similarly for waste management and end-of-life products, right? Is that something that is applicable? Is it measurable? And is it a priority? We have learned that a lot of times companies don't know where to start, right? They don't know where to start when it comes to getting, reaching their ESG goals and looking at IoT and how it is that they can help them. This tool, a simple tool, again, created is for here, is basically helping you get to that level. Hey, I am planning on doing green products and having low impacts, right? But similarly for the human resources, right? It's going into the green or carbon emissions, that's easy, but human resource matters. Health and safety can be measured and management very, very, very strongly, right? By use of devices. Similarly for innovation, and another thing that I think is up and coming, and when it comes to the governance as well, these are some of the things, like I said, we want to help you see how that applies, how it's measurable, and how that is a priority for things. An important element also, like I said, when you go to measuring or leveraging IoT, is some of the questions that we pose in the Think Beyond Results, right? Because it's not only very important to talk about results, right? And also, some of the metrics don't tend to show. For example, and I'm mentioning that here as well, is how do you gain knowledge, right? So again, think beyond results in line with the company's overall strategy. The questions that are very important to ask also are, what are the specific problems or elements that you can solve? The insights that you want to have, what is useful, right? What recommendation or could be optimized? What data needs to be gathered? How the responsive adjustment will be? How complex, algorithms might be? What are the consequences of data not being gathered? These are some of the things, and I think a lot of people don't ask themselves, but what would be consequences if you don't have your data available, right? What would that do in terms of regulation, etc., right? And another question could be, what are the additional operational cost strains? So these, again, are some of the things that we want to present to you and want to help you and get there to that level. We have obviously a whole lot of tools available. I've done that These are fully free of charge. We're not making anything of the tools that we presented here. But next to that, looking at, a canvas, we have a full-on canvas developed for this principle that is what we call the IoT canvas. It's based on Alexander Osterwalder's thinking, where you walk through a canvas and say, hey, yeah, this is applicable to me, and this is how it is applicable. So I would say that would conclude most of I think I have a few more minutes. I like to be in time. I timed it perfectly because I have a couple more minutes for questions.
Yeah, so I'd like to invite all attendees to feel free to chip in and ask any questions whatsoever to our first keynote speaker, Mr. Pascal Van Kief. Allow me to congratulate you personally, Pascal, because you managed to, in a tangible and effective manner, give us tangible examples of how organizations can leverage on IoT technologies to reach ESG goals. So that's very admirable. So I don't know if you want to conclude, Pascal, and in the meantime, if we do have any questions, I'll just chip in and ask you any questions which might be forthcoming.
Yeah. So to that point, I have my final slide up, which is basically a means of connecting. I think for me personally, I want to conclude by, again, what I share is leading by example. Right? I think a lot of those companies, we're living also in a little bit of a different zeitgeist, where more of the intangible things are coming to pass. It's not only about how well do I perform on my money, but we see now obviously how well do I perform on my ESG goals. We have seen that even in the S&P, when you compare that, the companies that are doing well within the S&P are typically a lot of companies that have adapted ESG goals within their key results and in their key metrics. So that's because I think there's, like I said, there's a new thinking that the environment is very important, that making sure that you're socially responsible is important, and also have a governance principle in place that allows for you to be more accountable and that allows for your company to be transparent, right? And that is, again, these are some of the things that I think are important. These are some of the things where IoT can be a huge, huge benefit, censoring the devices, like I said, right? Things that collect and send informations or things that receive information and can act upon it. So like I said, I would want to conclude that with that thinking, and I want to, conclude with the fact that, I am looking forward and seeing more and more companies making a difference by using IoT, right, in their challenges to reach ESG goals.
So thank you so much, Pascal Van Kief, for delivering such an insightful presentation. I have to tell you, and to be truly honest with you, that your genuine interest in IoT is very contagious. So hopefully you managed to somehow instill more interest into our attendees on why IoT truly matters to them and to their organization in trying to achieve, in your presentation, highlighting the ESG goals. So thank you so much, Pascal. It has been a pleasure having you. Wish you all the very best. Thank you so much, Pascal. That was our very first keynote speaker during the second day of the Valletta Tech Summit. Some of the issues mentioned by Pascal during his presentation, I'm really excited to discuss them with our first panelist, discussing precisely how organizations, more prominently in Malta, are trying to exploit all the opportunities of IoT, how they're trying to integrate IoT systems in their day-to-day operations. And we're really delighted to, in a short time, present the first panelist. But in the meantime, a very short break and then introduction of our first panelist.